Acapulco, Mexico. This is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet, coming in from Anarchapulco, Acapulco, Mexico, with Erika Harris, who's just recently moved down after the last Anarchapulco a few months ago to Acapulco from the corporate world in the U.S. Got a really interesting story about why she moved down, all the changes in her life that have happened over the last few months. She got into psychedelics. I think he did ayahuasca at Anarchapulco, and we're going to be doing that again next year as well, by the way, end of February 2017. So we're going to get into all that stuff, but the first thing I have to ask you, of course, is how did you become an anarchist?
Hey Jeff, thanks for having me. I became an anarchist the long, hard way, and by that I mean it started in a household that really instilled the idea of authority being outside of me, and so in every way I was, it was reinforced that political and religious and civic and legal authority mattered more than my own. I didn't even know I had any, to be honest. So
no one ever told you?
You know what I mean? I'm sure I had like a sense of it, but then it would, it was like there were enough voices on the outside, whether they were teachers or unenlightened caregivers, letting me know, oh, no. In fact, I was told you are to be seen and not heard. I was told that. And I was so eager to please, I didn't even know gag needed, So I really learned some really unskillful ways of being in life, really disempowering. But I didn't rebel. I just got sad and got really depressed because this, what my heart yearned for, just to be free, and live a simple kind of life. I just felt like it was always bumping up against some nuisance or aggravation. And honestly, I thought that that's just adult life because everyone around me, suggested it, that's the sign of maturity, that's this, and all this. And so, and I do credit you. You were one of the first irreverent voices to just crack jokes at all of that. Maybe I should listen to more stand-up comics. I'm sure they do too. But you just exposed the lack of freedom that I think that many in America, we believe our own hype. The land of the free, and then you're like, oh yeah? Can you have a drink? Can you have a smoke? Can you, what
Can you drive
exactly?
without a seatbelt?
Yeah.
Can you own your own house without having to pay rent, called property tax? Can you keep the money you make from work? Can you cut hair without permission? You have to actually get a license to cut hair now in the U.S. It's one of the least free places in the world.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess it was like, if, again, I had this illusion, I thought wrongly about a lot of things, and that was one of them too. I didn't consider, and plus I wasn't as well traveled as I would have liked, so I hadn't been exposed to a lot. So that's why it's just so important to be exposed to contrary thought, because it can confirm exactly the piece of information that you're needing. So anyway, so I pretty much just suffered alone. I think probably a lot of people that find their way to the movement, I thought I was crazy. I thought no one else had these ideas, and why can't I just align myself, I was suffering a lot. So I did seek refuge in a really rich inner life and spirituality, and then eventually in psychedelics. So, but at 7 is when I started to have a really clear relationship with the non-physical. Can I just share one quick story with you about it? Okay, so and I wrote a little story about it a couple years ago, and I called it The Snowflake Maker and Me. The significance of it is, at 7, my mom and I, we were living in Michigan, and so the two of us, we were innkeepers at a resort. And so I was in the 2nd grade at the time, and it was January, so lots of snow. And the teacher, this was an assignment I didn't hate, but for the most part, school was, of course, not my favorite thing. But we were given paper to fold, and then you can cut out certain shapes and make these snowflakes, paper snowflakes. So the teacher said this intriguing thing. She says, no two snowflakes are made alike. And she said it presented it as fact. Well, I looked out the window and I see mountains of snow, and I'm like, how could that possibly be true? all that snow, how could there be no duplicate? I didn't believe her. So you know, we had a long like rural road. When the bus dropped me off, I had to walk it, and that's when I learned like how good it is to have me time. So even at 7, I was like, ooh, I love my little 20-minute walk home. And so it started to blizzard, and I had on some dark mittens, navy blue mittens, and I was like, I'm gonna test this teacher out. So I held up my mittens and I caught, you know, tons of flakes, and they were large. And she was right. These ice crystals were different. I mean, they were symmetrical, beautiful, perfect, and different. Okay, so at 7, I was like, look, I know grandma said Jesus, and you know, and there's all these, regardless of what to call it, whoever is behind, whatever intelligence is behind the making of all these individual ice crystals, I want to be with that, because I was like, what kind of creativity is that? So that was really my first time being enraptured, and it never left. And so then it went through different iterations, you know, of Judeo-Christianity, and you know, anyway, so I share that because it was a big part of my path, and that's something I've had to revisit as I revisit all external authority, you know.
Well, you really showed you were a free thinker even at 7, just for not believing what the teacher told you. That's actually an excellent sign. And going out and testing it for yourself. So right there, you already showed the signs of being a free thinker, an anarchist, a voluntarist, a person who questions authority at the very least, if not doesn't think there should be authority, definitely nothing that you didn't agree to. And so you really showed that. So you came down for an Acapulco, and I bet that was quite an experience, just coming down from, I think you're from Chicago, and then being immersed in sort of the environment here. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, still, it was breathless. Oh God, I don't even know if I can tell the first experience I had. I just, like, over and over and over again, I was shown the contrast. Like they say, like a fish doesn't know water. It's all it knows is water. And so all I knew was like heavy regulation, heavy rules, heavy monitoring, just all of that. And then to feel the absence of it, it's startling. And then of course you add in, I mean, just this rich like mix of like philosophically thinking, just, I mean, amazing people from all over. I don't know how, I was like, these are my people. And just like, I know I'm sane, but like I was around others who agreed. That was really affirming.
Well, when you live in an insane world, you do feel like you are insane sometimes, when everyone else seems to be pretty much insane. You say to them things like, why does that person own you? And they're like, well, it's the government.
Yeah.
And why are they stealing money from you? Oh, it's not stealing, it's called taxes.
Civic duty, sure.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it must have been interesting. I've seen some Americans come down to Mexico, and I actually used to have a hotel here. And it's actually a young couple from Chicago. And the first thing they asked was, is it dangerous? And I said, where are you from? And they said, Chicago. I said, it's much less dangerous than Chicago. And then they said, I noticed there's no speed limits. And I said, yeah, no one cares. You just don't hit anyone. That's it.
Yes.
And they were like, we're going to leave soon. We can't handle this. And I'm like, yeah, go back to the land of the free. Go back where all the rules are.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about that, about your experience in Acapulco itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting. So that I definitely, one of the first things that I noticed once I had gotten settled into an apartment was that I had these beautiful, like, floor to ceiling windows. And A, they opened, and B, there were no bars. Like, there was no I was like, what? Like, this would never happen. Now I'm accustomed to it. Now it looks normal to me. But at the time, like, my eyes were so conditioned. Like, the States, I think windows over the 6th floor or 3rd floor, forget it. They're not going to open.
I stay in hotels in the U.S. I was just in Miami. And I just wanted to open a little crack, and it's like
no.
Triple. No way you can open it.
Yeah.
And I went right after the Dominican Republic, and I checked into the Sheraton Hotel there, and big balcony. I opened the door. I'm like,
Yes.
Like, I don't like being entrapped in there.
Of course. And just the idea to suggest that, that citizens can't be trusted.
Well, the thing in the U.S., the reason why they have it, especially in places like Vegas, is because people will try to kill themselves because it's that bad. Like that's why people get so crazy up there. They're literally living in a prison.
Yeah.
And so, they're like, well, why is everyone doing so much drugs? Because they're super unhappy. Because they live in a prison. Why are all the windows, you can't open them? So people don't jump out.
Right.
In the land of the free. It's pretty funny to see the difference.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. And so all those ways I started to kind of like wake up to, it's so silly to say this, but like feeling like a trusted adult, unlike I did. I just felt like a chronic child in the States, but certainly had all the adult responsibilities, but none of the freedoms that should go with it. So that was
the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And so then, and then there's some give and take. So like on this, like the sidewalks, I joke about them being ankle breakers because there's like, there can be holes and like disruption because the trees grow and the roots disrupt the pavement. And so if you're not watching, you can easily trip. And like in the States, there would be like a warning every 30 seconds, like don't fall because of like how litigious it is.
There'd be like tape, yellow police tape around like this little hole. It's like, just don't fall in the hole.
Yeah. So
Open your eyes.
Right. So I can see where it really has like numbed and dumbed for sure, because you have this entity that's just like, chewing food for you, and that's not how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to chew our own food, get our own food, grow our own food. God.
Well, you're not allowed to do that.
I know.
Try to, change your lawn, which that's funny too to me. The U.S. Everyone's got a lawn, totally useless piece of great
the
real estate.
The lawn has them.
Right.
Oh, the lawn has
and then
them.
every weekend they got to go out there and mow it, and it doesn't grow any food or anything. But if you try to plant a garden on your front lawn, you'll have all the criminals coming with their guns trying to shut you down.
Yeah.
And here, that's one of the things I actually love about Acapulco is there's like no zoning regulations whatsoever. And so you might have noticed like every house is totally different. It's just built into the rocks. It's like whatever, just do whatever. It's your land. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it really makes beauty, as opposed to you go to the U.S. and it's just row houses of the exact same houses.
Yeah, it looks
and all
really
the cars are all the
unnatural.
same because of all the regulations now. Jeffrey Tucker had a good article on that a little while ago about how every car basically looks the same because of all the government regulations in the U.S. now.
Wow.
It's for a lot of people who haven't lived outside of the U.S., they just have no idea, do they?
Right, exactly, yeah. So that was it was so great just to see. And that's the other thing why sometimes it's like I don't like super enjoy the energy of debate personally, but I like demonstration more. And so when it's demonstrated, what's to argue with? And so that's really what I was getting from Anarchast. And then I recalled, some episodes in particular, like with Angel Clark. And so I was seeing the demonstration of it. And I was a philosophy major, so I've been there, done that, had 4 years of theoretical talk, and much less seeing people walk it out. So that was the thing that really was compelling to me. I was like, this is being lived. So it's proof it's possible. And that was enough to like help me shatter. Like it is, like that Stockholm syndrome is real.
Oh, big time.
It's shockingly real. And so I have a lot of compassion for those that are doing like the dismantling of freeing yourself, but it's also it's disillusioning. You think that the way you were raised, you think you had a happy childhood, and then you realize, what? I was treated like a puppet, or you think because you thought it norm, you thought it was, and it really is not norm. So I am like doing a lot of integrating right now of having learned certain things that I thought were good that aren't. And Acapulco is just being an amazing place to do that. It's like healthy, good, delicious food is available at a fraction of the cost. The sunshine, happy people that make eye contact and greet you in the street. I just feel a level of humanity here. And even the dogs, and even the stray dogs, I noticed, that was one of the first things I noticed my first couple of weeks here, is like even how different they are, like their temperament. I haven't been frightened by one. And like stray dogs in the States, they terrify me. You just have no idea. They can feel the stress of the people.
Right.
So they're likely to just take a chunk. But here?
That's exactly right, because the dogs really feel the energy. So even if my wife and I have a bit of a fight or something, you can tell the dogs are all different. But if we're not, and we don't fight a lot, by the way, but if we ever have a little small fight, you can just tell the energy of the dogs. They can tell. And when it's calm, like it is now, you can see like Lucy, she's just sitting there, she's happy as can be. So yeah, they feel the energy too, and that is the general energy of a place like this. But if you listen to the American media, Mexico's dangerous and don't go there. People just need to turn that TV off. It's brainwashing. It's called programming for a reason. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can just pick up that vibe. I mean, and I know, like I challenge myself. I'm like, sometimes I care so little about mainstream media. Like I won't tune in, and sometimes I even just don't even want to partake. And so I'm like, no, you need to be aware what's going on in the world. And I swear it's just in doses.
Oh, I can't watch for more than a minute.
Yeah.
My heart starts racing, especially if you watch like CNN or something. They go, and now to the Situation Room, Wolf Blitzer. What's going on, Wolf? He's like, devastation and chaos. And it's like, and all this, red alert, yellow, amber alert, watch out.
Right.
It's like, I just like turn it off and look around and birds chirping. I'm like, okay, everything's okay. Like,
right.
It's made that way.
Yeah.
And so, just even watching more than a minute or two. Like, I'll walk by in the airports in the U.S. or something, and CNN's on.
Yeah.
And I'll just look for like 20 seconds. I can't believe what they're saying. I'm like, that's not real. That's not how the world is at all. They're making it look like it's crazy. And just constant. They have two people on. They're like, let's talk about this, and they just start shouting at each other.
Yes.
And it's like it's just constant. It's like, turn it off.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whole nother way.
So one of the things that you got into quite a bit, I don't know if you were into it before, but I know you did ayahuasca at Anarchapulco. And I think you know that Barry Cooper is going to do like a Guinness Book of World Records ayahuasca ceremony here at the next Anarchapulco, which is hilarious.
I'll be facilitating with them.
Oh, great. Yeah. So was that your first time doing ayahuasca?
That was my first time doing ayahuasca. But like prior to that, I had some experience with San Pedro, and so that was like my most significant, and it opened up the doors. But there was a long gestation because like that happened 8 years ago, and I didn't. Again, I lacked the courage, I lacked the spine to do what I'm doing now, which is to like own up to what I learned and saw. And so like instead, I was like laying open by love. I don't care how that sounds. That's what happened to me. And because I so dreaded being seen as crazy and talking like that, some, whacked out hippie sucking on cactus juice, that I pretended it didn't happen. And for 8 years, I went back to so like in Matrix, it was the blue pill. Can you believe it? So after what happened in Peru, so significant. I mean, the things that I knew oneness. I know it to be real. And that's how come like I can't give it up now. And so it's 8 years later, and even though and it comes out in my conversation and in my relationships, and it might be spastic sometimes, but it's because I know oneness is real. And we're just, really like, sometimes we align, kind of far away from that, but it is actually there, and I experienced it. But there was no aftercare, and there was no aftercare, and there was just no way to sort of reconcile what had happened in Peru and then my crazy boxed-in life in Chicago. And I didn't have anyone in my life that I thought would understand it, so I just stuffed it for 8 years. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and I really feel like that those instances of like where we don't express a truth or don't live something out, I really think that is the inception of depression. And
absolutely.
Often,
when you hold that stuff inside, I've realized that over time.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize what you're holding inside either. So you don't know. You just know your whole life's been that way. But as you start to discover these things and go down these paths, you start to realize, and you go into these experiences, sometimes with psychedelics, sometimes with meditation, and you go, I forgot about that, and I never really dealt with it really, and it's probably still deep down inside, and you just got to get it out really.
Yeah.
And one way or another.
Yeah. And sometimes it means you have to move barriers out of the way, in inner or outer barriers. Yeah, so by the time I met with ayahuasca, I was ready for her. And plus also because like when I told you about like that snowflake experience, I was also having lots of experiences like in the forest similarly. So nature and the mysticism and the life of nature had started to speak way back when. So I kind of felt like it was like, I felt ready to meet her, you know? And it was a wonderful, I mean, I know that it's usually described in really like kind of horrid ways, you know, oh, the purging and this and that, and there is that. There's, you know, there's cleansing, but it's, I don't even have, the only word I had for it was just yes, you know, like at the end of the 7 or 8 hour journey, we're invited to just like sum up our experience in one word, and like the only word I had was yes. Yes to life, just yes. Whereas before, like my default word was probably like no, or what about, I don't know, it was like something real tentative, not fully alive, not yes. And that's what and it should be. For me at least, you know, I want to affirm having breath, and yes does it. So ayahuasca, she showed me some stuff, and I got shadows like still coming up, you know. But that's the integration. And for me, this process is, I know a lot of like people in my community are like they've been, I guess, saturated in the ideas longer. So perhaps they have done this already, but there's a lot of the inner work that has to catch up with this outer work, or it's like, or they're in tandem, you know. So while I'm also curious about, you know, being a wise expat and learning what I need to learn about business setups and dealing with taxes and that kind of thing, there's also this other part that says, you know, when I declare myself sovereign, to go from slave to sovereign is a big deal. And so it's caused a lot of repair, and, you know, but the chance to rebuild.
Yeah, we all have to go down our own journey with these things, but most people never even start the journey. And so for people, I'm not saying you should go out there and do ayahuasca. If you said you were ready, and I knew I was ready when I went to do it as well. Everyone has their own, but you have to be aware of those things. So most people are just watching football, drinking beer, going to work, coming home. You know, they're not thinking about these things, and I think people need to take a bit more time to think about these things.
Sure. You know, honestly, like I read somewhere it said, like, if someone is sound asleep, fluff their pillow. And there was something to that. So like, I don't feel the burden or the responsibility to like wake everybody up with the truth.
No.
If they're that sound asleep, let me fluff your pillow. It's the ones who are like, they have an eye open and they're like, well, what is that? And they're trying to figure it out. There we go. You know, but if you're sound asleep, why rouse you? You're likely to, you know, smack me or something.
Yeah, no, I've discovered that as well. I used to try to help so many people, and now I don't go out of my way to help too many people. You know, who says I'm the one helping them, right? Who am I to think that I know a better way than they know?
Sure.
I can pretty much tell, though. but
way is right,
but I can just tell. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. And so to go out of my way and, you know, take someone who has no idea what I'm talking about and bash them over the head with it, that's not gonna. They're not gonna get it anyway.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own different way, different journey they have to take towards whatever they need to do in this life, right?
That's why this is perfect. I mean, say like creating a show, and so you pour out your expertise and you invite your guests, and then it's completely voluntary. Viewers can watch or not. And then they can, you know, when they're ready, they're ready. And so when I was ready like 2 years ago, that was it. It really started to change. Just like it took 2 years to undo what, you know, many decades did, but eventually I got here. And like, again, the irony, because I like, it's not wasted on me, the fact that that Anarchast and watching that view, it's compelling. And, you know, and now I'm in the view. So it just goes to show, and I always thought that, I'm like, I think the mind is really underused. I really think that it could advance our life in ways, like we don't have to work as hard or suffer as much if we were, you know, to do more with this. And I'm really curious about, you know, like creative use and ways that, you know, aren't considered necessarily traditional or conventional. But I mean, I'm not saying like just stare at a video for 2 years and then you'll be in it, but that's what happened to me. You know, give or take some, you know, some effort.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you've been writing on Steemit lately.
I love Steemit.
And you had a good article recently. I forget what it was called. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Was it about ayahuasca or about?
No, you were mentioning the article that you wanted to talk about.
Well, okay. So there's a practice that I am reviving, and so the practice is called Lavish Listening. And so this was something that I did. I started it, a few years ago when I was still in corporate America, because I was, wanting to get one foot out. And so I was like starting this digital life. And so one of the ways that I did that was to offer deep, compassionate listening. And I mean, and there could be, it could feel therapeutic, but I wasn't, marketing it as therapy. It really was, like that satisfaction that you often get like after a flight and you've just poured your heart out to your seatmate, or you might be the person that gets poured on. So I would always get poured on, and I enjoyed it, much like I'm enjoying Lucy's presence right now. So, and I know that the healing effect of just being deeply witnessed by somebody. So I would do that like by phone and by Skype. And at that time I did it mostly like I was focused on like life coaches and growth-oriented people, really like charting their success and stuff. And I'd like to now offer it for to the anarchist community, the liberty-minded community, and I want to give a special shout out to adults that were not peacefully raised. And this is not to bash parents who were doing the best that they could with what they had. My mom included. She was extraordinary, is extraordinary, and did the best that she could. She hadn't been, she had her path, and she worked with it. So, but I realized that like while we wake up to how important it is to treat children with dignity and with great care and peace, that there's like this whole other generation of people that were raised like I was, like the kind of very standard sort of upbringing in a way. I wasn't hit physically, and I know that many were, but all the other ways to be aggressed upon and coerced and told basically that you're like a non-person. So I have an affinity for people like that, because I'm like having a hard time with it, and so I realized I couldn't be the only one. So one of the things that I wanted to offer, that or anything, just basically like if there's something like heavy on your heart, and many people don't have like good listeners, as you are being, because I'm just going a mile a minute, but so that's something that I'm wanting to offer, and more can be found out about it at my website, empathicwriter.com.
Cool. So I guess people, if they want, they just call you up and tell you all their problems. Is that how it works?
Yeah, and it sounds strange. I mean, it has like the after effect is.
I think you might have a big business, actually.
Oh, I hope so.
Well, everyone's got tons of problems that I know of.
I don't hope for the problems, but I hope to at least give people a sense of like felt relief.
That is interesting. I've never quite heard of that sort of a service, really.
Yeah.
I guess that's sort of what psychiatry is to an extent, though, right?
A little. Here's one of the differences. Like, for instance, I presume giftedness. I don't presume the brokenness. I mean, I know that that's there, but I'm really reaching for that. And the other thing is like I am not wanting to be like prescriptive, although insight usually does come, and usually a person, if they are given a chance to just air out their own ideas, they find their answer. They just sort of, I think it was Thoreau who said it takes two to speak the truth, one to speak it and one to hear it. So just serving the role as witness lets people find their own answers often. Yeah,
that's interesting. When I first started the Dollar Vigilante newsletter, I knew a really good newsletter writer, and I asked him, how are you doing this all the time? You're writing 2 times a week, this big newsletter. And he said, I write it for me. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I have to put together all my investment ideas, and the best way to do it is to try to put it in a format where I'm trying to tell other people what my ideas are, so you work through them yourself. So in actuality, all your answers are actually inside of you. But you have to know how to say them and listen to them yourself, and that's the hard part. And I guess it can start with just talking to someone else, right? I don't know who Lucy wants to go with now. She can't decide.
She's got the best of both worlds, exactly.
Well, that's cool. So you'll be at the Anarchapulco, you'll be helping out Barry Cooper next year. That should be really interesting. I think Macy Tomlin might be helping as well. She really had an amazing experience last year.
We were in there together and didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah. Well, there's like 50 other people.
Right, exactly.
That was pretty nuts.
There's a lot going on.
It's going to be bigger this year.
Yes, the largest in history. It'll be exciting to be a part of that.
Barry's a wild man.
For sure.
He never does anything small, that guy.
Good.
Yeah. It
Especially
is good.
for this.
Well, we had people that were begging to come in, and we couldn't let them in because we only had one shaman.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't take more than 50 people. What if 2 people start freaking out at the same time?
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see how it goes next year. But I know last year was almost everyone I talked to really thought it was a life-changing experience.
Yes, it was. It was. And I have to, and one thing too, like sometimes some people might have concern about, say, doing ayahuasca like outside of a jungle environment, and because we were, in a conference room.
You're in a hotel.
Right. And so what I found was, like that the medicine is like adaptable, and so she shows up where you are, and so like in my case, I think one of the reasons I even got I was already fond of Acapulco, but that night, like spending that time, there were, sometimes I was laying down, but at least a third of the time I was like just staring out the window, and with this, I won't dare like try to explain what had happened. I'll just say that the landscape was speaking to me. I mean, and even like the blinking lights, like this, there's information, to be had, and so all space, there's sacredness in all space. So if anyone is concerned about it not being in a jungle, I haven't done ayahuasca in a jungle, but like my experience, it was full and rich. I felt like nothing was missing, just because of where,
Yeah, I know a lot of people say it's the best to go down to South America, to Peru, and spend a week, and that probably a big part of that is just spending a week in Peru, right?
Yes.
But I don't necessarily think the location is super important either, and you have to realize too, we are in the middle of a tropical rainforest here, and I know that Barry does want to do it outside of the hotel this year.
Okay.
So I think he is looking for a location that's a lot more natural, so it'd be even cooler, really.
Nice, yeah.
So that's really cool. So for people, actually, I don't think I played the video yet in Anarchast of our promo video for Anarchapulco. So check it out. It's really good.
By the 21st century, the statists had taken over the world. After 9/11, the savage union of the war on terror and the war on drugs squelched the last flickers of freedom. Central banking-backed wars raged. Violence, imprisonment, and theft had become the norm. Not many could see any other way. Hope vanished. But then, when things looked their darkest, something happened. A surprise, and just in time. From the valleys, fjords, and suburbs rose the anarchists. From the cities, factories, and the dark web came the anarcho-capitalists. And from every other nook, corner, cranny, and drum circle, the voluntarists. Some said it was too little, too late. The war had already been lost. You can't change the system, they cried. And the anarchist answered, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. One rule to heal the world, one rule that binds them, one rule sets their moral compass and aligns them. The N-A-motherfucking-P. And with that, they gather again, as they do every year, in Acapulco, Mexico, this coming February for the 3rd annual Anarchapulco. Speakers include Larkin Rose, Jeffrey Tucker, Jeff Berwick, Adam Kokesh, Milo Yiannopoulos, Lauren Southern, Luke Radowski, Julia Toriansky, Roger Ver, Rick Falkfinger, Dana Martin, Judd Weiss, Max Egan, Josie Wales, That Guy T, Anarchy Girl, Sasha Daygame, Barry Cooper, Mark Victor, Trace Mayer, Ian Freeman and Mark Edge, Rosalind Ross, Tim Moen, Dan Dix, Dale Brown, Christopher David, Stephanie Murphy, Derek J. Freeman, Derek Brose, and many, many more. The headline musical act will be Eric July and Backwards. In and around the event will also be the Dollar Vigilantes Internationalization and Investment Summit, Change Media University, and the world's largest ayahuasca ceremony held by Barry Cooper, Ayahuascapulco. Plus, Terry Brock's Fund Your Freedom entrepreneurial course, Adam Kokesh's homesteading workshop, Sasha Daygame's Anarchy in Relationships course, Dana Martin's Free Your Family workshop, and much, much more. And it will all be held the last week of February 2017 in Acapulco, Mexico at the 5-star Mundo Imperial Resort and Convention Center. Go to anarchapulco.com to stake your place in history. The world might just never be the same. Evacuate the state. Brave the future.
Yeah, so I hope you guys can check it out. End of February, it's going to be amazing, as you know. It's going to be so huge next year. No one has any idea. It's going to be crazy. But it'll also be an amazing experience. And so,
can I share my discount code?
No.
Okay.
This is my show.
Okay.
You do that on your show.
Okay.
But yeah, so check it out. If you like this video, really interesting conversation with Erika. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share down below. Share these videos. Try to help people to, get this sort of information. They don't get a lot of this kind of information just anywhere, it seems. Definitely not on the television programming. And Lucy wants to go, so I guess we should get going. I don't know where she wants to go. I think she wants to go sleep somewhere. So we'll let her go. And thank you, Erika, for coming on.
Thank you, Jeff. It was so great.
Yeah, thank you. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.